Business Focus with Kudzi Sharara on the Champions League Breakfast.
Good morning and welcome to Business Focus, where we discuss a lot of what's happening in the world of business, as always with Kudzi Sharara. Good morning, Kudzi. How are you today?
Good morning, Tinashe. Good morning, Patsan, and good morning, everyone.
Great. Thank you so much, Kudzi. Let's talk about inflation today. I believe the numbers came out last week on Friday, but obviously they were overshadowed by the news from the central bank.
Yes, the news of the devaluation of Zimbabwe obviously overshadowed everything. But yes, Zimstat released their inflation figures for the month of August, and obviously it's not. It wasn't looking pretty in the month because of price increases across the board. When you look at month-on-month inflation at 0.7%, still manageable. But when you compare it with the previous month, which was at 0.2%, so it has jumped to 0.7%. And then you look at year-on-year inflation, which was at 3.8% in September, and I'm talking about US dollar inflation here. It went year-on-year inflation in August went to 4.2% from 3.8%, and again you can see these are price increases that we are witnessing in the economy. And as for ZIG, obviously on a month-on-month basis, ZIG inflation rate was at 5.8% in September, gaining 4.4 percentage points from 1.4% in the previous month. So again, we are seeing price increases. But inflation, people feel it differently depending on the kind of products that you buy, and also depending on where you live, where you live in terms of, for example, provincial inflation. So which province are feeling the most in terms of inflation? So out
of the 10 provinces,
those in Matabeleland North, where their year-on-year inflation is at 7.6%. So we said overall US dollar inflation is at 4.88% for the 4.2% for the month of September. But for those in Matabeleland North, it's at 7.6%, which is significantly higher than
Mat North. We're talking about Vic Falls.
Vic Falls, yes, Wange, and the like. I'm not sure what's happening there. It used to be like this in the past, and then it was overtaken at some point by an National and Central, but now Mat North is now at the top. Also facing higher inflation is those in National and East at 7.1%. So these two, also Mashingo at 7.2%. So these three above 7%, Mat North, Mashingo, and Mash East. Yeah, they are feeling the most of inflation. And then the province where inflation is rather low than anywhere else, I think a lot of people might dispute this because I know Harare. So Harare, that's where inflation is the lowest, actually, year-on-year inflation, where it is at 1.9% in Harare. But I think Harare
But what are the contributing factors? I know it maybe Mat North is feeling the pinch.
So it's also there are a lot of factors. It could be like, for example, product range. You look at the products that are sold maybe in those areas, like in Vic Falls, for example. You want to have quality products in that because you're catering for tourists. So there could be high margin products there, and also just the cost of doing business. Right, somebody who is operating from
distance
there,
of traveling the goods.
Also, that is also a factor, obviously. But also the fact the cost of doing business. Probably you are in that area, and the rentals are higher than elsewhere.
It's a tourist resort.
And then also, if you can go to Munane, like for example, if you look at like Mashingo, for example, you might see maybe there isn't much competition like in Harare, where in Mashingo kanari tinasha nezvinhu pamwe ndiye ega or vashoma vanazvo, and they can price at a certain price that they want, and they become expensive. As compared to Harare, maybe there's more competition. And then there's also a factor yekuti zvinhu zvinogona kunge zvakambenge zvakanyanya kuchipa. Remember namboti at some point ndana Mash Central vanga vaine high inflation, so zvinhu zvinogona kunge zvakachipa zvakachipa in those areas, and then zvozokwira zvakuita catch up. But inflation, remember, it is the rate at which prices are increasing. So it's not like ndo kune zvinhu zviri kudhura kupfuura kumwe kwese, but ndo kune zvinhu zvakwira at a faster rate than anywhere else. Maybe they are now catching up with prices in Harare, with prices elsewhere. So they are doing catch up. So the rate at which their prices went up was higher than in Harare, where probably things were already expensive. So the rate at which prices went up was at a slower pace than the rate at which prices went up in these other markets.
All right, Takudzi, while we were talking about price increases and inflation, how is the market taking the new monetary measures, and of course, what will be the likely impact on inflation?
I think there's a bit of panic, Tinashe. I saw people sharing pictures of trolleys full of basic commodities in supermarkets, where people were trying to, as much as they can, to just make sure that they do away with the ZIG. But I think it's a bit of panic because the measure has been put in place already. Prices have already gone up, so you might panic and use all your ZIG unless you're anticipating it will worsen going forward. Then you can panic. But why should you go and buy things that you might not necessarily need because devaluation yatoitika kudhara zvinhu zvatokwira price ato-adjust.
Yauri kuti the measure has been put in place ndeipi tiri kuti zvagadzirika here nemeasure yaiswa kuti tadevaluate ZIG redu and then things are going to be stable since the bank has said kuti tadevaluate ndo zvapo.
It's early days, Patsani, for anyone to say going forward this is what is going to happen. I think even I think even when you look at the monetary policy committee statement, you can see that people are yes, they have to be positive about their measures, but sometimes if you then overdo it, even in terms of the analysts and media, even the media, you become you go to the extent of saying going forward. We are not prophets, and we need to see how things are panning out. Just today I was just checking what is happening with the exchange rate, the official exchange rate, what movements were there. Remember, it was devalued to 24.39. And yesterday, the rate that they were using was 24.88. So it will be interesting to track that exchange rate to see whether there is this flexibility. But also, I think I'll try and talk to treasury dealers at various banks to say what sort of changes have you put in place to ensure that there is more flexibility. Yakataurwa ne-Reserve Bank, there will be more flexibility in terms of determination of the exchange rate. So we want to see whether there is that flexibility. But at the moment, even prices, inflation, you were asking me to say what will be the impact on inflation. Already I was hearing one radio station when I was driving here, and they were saying on the news, it was a news report saying that commuter minibuses have now increased their fares to 15 ZIG. Trip here 50 cents. Yeah, at 15 ZIG. And yet the official exchange rate is saying it's 24.25, and is it? So I fear that for 50 cents shouldn't be 15 ZIG. It should be 13, 12.13 ikoko anditi ndoko inofanira kunge inona 12.5 ZIG. But then pane issue change, so there's that rounding off inoitika iya ngosay handip kune wobva wangoita round off to 15 ZIG, but tinayo inga 2 ZIG yedu ngoita round off to 12 ZIG. So izvozvo but tinozoita inflation figures pane a price increase of more than 100% in terms of combi fares. Kana kwanga chimboitwa 7 ZIG kwa 15 ZIG, saka that's more than 100% in terms of yeah.
I saw yesterday I was trying to buy this pet 500 mil. It used to go for 10 ZIG or equivalent to 50 cents. Nezuro ndakampa 10 ZIG. Fazvanzi pashota kamwana kamwana kapi zvikanzi half year mandipa. So I ended up buying it for 15 ZIG.
Which means that's like a 50% increase on that one. But already you see and 10 ZIG
50 cents,
of which answer official exchange rate, it wasn't even that. So I think already people are pricing not using the official exchange rate, which is 24.88% as of yesterday, but they are pricing their products using the parallel market exchange rate, which is at 30. Someone was saying 35 yesterday, although in some shops they are even using a higher one.
I remember kudzichutudza nezve-forward pricing.
Forward pricing
To protect my interests ako.
iri kuitika saka zvinozonetsa manje because mumwe anongohwandawo ngoti ndiri kuita forward pricing pamwe yagridyo ndosaka kwakazounzwa zita rekuti ranga risiko kudhara kuti grid inflation inokonzerwa negreediness. Saka you see it also in business. At least they say to doing business to just make honest profits.
All right, Takudzi, we also want to find out how did the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange yesterday performed, and what is the likely reaction to the new monetary measures?
Yeah, so the ZSC continued on a downward trajectory. It has been coming off, albeit slightly coming off with losses of less than 1%. For example, yesterday, the OSHA index down by 54% rather. Top 10 index down by 0.91%. The biggest losers, FBC losing 13.04%, EcoCash easing 6.49%, Mikos losing 5.88%, Dirtbot down by 3.32%, and First Mutual Properties down by 2.46%. There were also some gains, however, recorded. Then Nampec being the top riser with a 14.99% gain, RTG putting on 10.42%, Ariston adding 7.99%, CBZ putting on 7.76%, and then ZHL up by 6.44%. In terms of funds that were invested, not bad. Delta getting about 1.8 million ZIG, Econet 1.4 million ZIG, FBC 1.2 million ZIG, then Citco and CBZ getting a sizable chunk of the funds that were invested. Now to come to your question to say, what is the likely impact of the new measures? So when you look at the new measures as a whole, not only the devaluation, you look at the increase in interest rates from 20% to 35%, it means that it will restrict borrowing, right? And some investors or businesses might say, okay, instead of going to the bank to borrow, let me just not borrow because it's expensive. Let me go and sell some shares that I had bought in the past. So selling pressure on the ZSC. And then you look at the reserve ratios that were also increased by the central bank. The reserve ratios, the money that banks can lend out, also reduced. Again, we are restricting the amount of money that could be put into the economy, and obviously that again will affect the ZSC. The devaluation obviously has made stocks cheaper. Why? Because before the devaluation, you were saying, when you're looking at, for example, ZSC stocks, you're saying, looking at their price, which were in ZIG, and then you try and convert them into using the official exchange rate into US dollars, and you come up with a certain price. But now at that time, the official exchange rate was around 14 point. Now we are using 24 point, which means that stocks have become much cheaper again. So for those who are for the long term, they will take this opportunity to buy low when the market is down as it is. It has been coming off and it's even now cheaper. So some investors might take the opportunity to be buying again back into the market. But it also depends on zigracho unaro here rekutenga market, because the monetary policy committee statement that was released showed that we are in a expansionary. This one, I think it's contractionary. So there isn't. You'd assume that there isn't much money that is available and looking for a home. But sometimes we are told that we are implementing a restrictive monetary policy. And then a month or two down the line, you see that there was increased money supply growth, and we wondered, we are saying we are in a hawkish monetary policy environment where you are trying to restrict the money that is out there, but yet there is this significant growth in terms of money supply. So hopefully what is said is what is then followed through action going forward.
I know there is a question here. I know it might be beyond your comments, but for the sake of our listener, maybe we just ignored it. It says that will there be some compensation to those whose salaries were affected by these adjustments?
Yeah, if you start thinking about compensation, Tinashe, there is a compensation yakatorecommendwa yakatoapprovwa yekuti compensate people who lost their monies during, especially my pensioners. So and pension funds were told you must compensate. Up to now, I know we brought Dr. Muradziko at some point here, and she was really like saying,
yes,
but it hasn't happened. So I don't think 2019. I think we lost again value. Transition, we lost significant value there, and then we introduced the ZIG. Again, pakaluzwa mari zvekutodaro pakaintroducwa ZIG as well. Remember, exchange rate rakangomuka richinzi takushandisa iri to make ma-conversions akaitwa yaya from 6,000 yaishandiswa nevanhu muma-streets in terms of real physical notes the Zim dollar. Vapanzi takushandisa 33,000. Again, people lost money. So as a compensation, I don't think that. I mean, maybe in future, somebody will come and say, but people lost money, just like what happened with the Justice Smith Commission. Okay.
Anzi, this one says, is the Zimbabwe gold still backed by gold and other precious minerals, seeing that it was devalued by 44% at a time gold is appreciating and the other minerals are stable or appreciating as well?
That is a question for the RBZ governor, Dr. Shayavanu. But I think if you read the Sunday Mail of this past Sunday, I think he reiterated that it is backed by gold. So it's up to you to check his word for it, but that's a question for him and his team to say to what extent are we still backed by gold, and what remedies have you put in place? Yes, the Monetary Policy Committee statement came out, but what else are you doing to make sure that the backing, we can feel it? No, gold. So it's a question that they can answer at the Reserve Bank.
All right, hopefully you answered on that one. 2 minutes to go, Kudzi. But yesterday we spoke about Padenga and its results. But I do understand that more listed companies released their results as well. Which ones did you get a chance to look at?
I would have loved to talk about Deribot, but given the time that is it's limited now, maybe we can talk about Deribot and maybe get a chance to bring Mess now that their results are out. But so let me talk about Zim Papers, the owners of Capital FM, in terms of how the group performed. You know, they are into newspaper division, the commercial printing division. Some people don't know that Zim Papers is into commercial printing division through Nut Print. You can actually have your packaging and stuff like that printed by under Zim Papers. They also have the broadcasting division, which obviously Capital FM and other sister stations, and then they've got the television division where you've got ZTN Prime. So looking at the newspaper division, it's not doing well. Revenue down because of significant decline in volumes, which declined by 16% compared to the same period last year. So volume performance in 2023, last year, they benefited from the national, presidential and parliamentary elections, so that they gave them volumes. But so the newspaper division not doing so well. It has also been affected by we are now in the digital era, so there's a movement and a shift, and they're trying to also catch up on that one. The commercial printing division, that one recorded growth, 4% revenue growth for the commercial. Nut Print doing well there in terms of revenue growth as well as volumes growth. The broadcasting division also, however, recorded a revenue decline of 7%. Of course, Star FM, our sister station, did a 7% volumes growth. But I think you've got Platinum, you've got Capital, you've got the Diamond. I think that's where this decline in revenue came from. But I don't read much into decline in revenue per se because of compare my ZIG figures, my Zim dollar figures last year. It's very difficult to compare. So you look at volumes, which again though for television was down by 13% in terms of volumes for the television division. So that's the Zim Papers numbers there.
So let's talk about Deribot tomorrow.
Yes, hopefully I'll be able to convince Mess to just come and talk about her results herself. Let's look forward to that.
The chair is already open, so they'll be coming tomorrow.
Yes.
So we talk about it. Thanks so much, Kudzi, for Business Focus for today. We discuss more tomorrow, as we said. Good day to you.
Thank you.
Business Focus with Kudzi Sharara on the Champions League Breakfast.